The following story in its entirety is completely fictitious. The events in the story never happened. I think. Please, enjoy. Throughout the history of the railroads, there have been wrecks, derailments, sabotage, and many other unfortunate instances. Some of them are caused by abandonment. On today's episode, we will climb aboard and relive the story of Chesapeake, Ohio, Santa Fe, 5427. Now, before I get started, I looked up the actual locomotive, and the reason there's no links down below or in the description or anywhere, that's because I found very little. All I found was the the aerial year of when it was built. I'm pretty sure it was built in 1930. Because I went on multiple websites looking for the date of this locomotive's build, couldn't find it. The nearest one I found was 1937, so I'm guessing that's when it was built. So, and also, I don't know what this locomotive was used for because I wasn't around back then. So, yeah, don't hate me a lot. So let's get started, shall we? Synopsis. The history of Chesapeake, Ohio and Santa Fe locomotive number 5427 is blurred and missing in parts. But we do know that it was built in the late 1930s for the New York Central Railroad. But unfortunately, the locomotive had too many problems that the railroad wouldn't fix, and the 5427 was subsequently abandoned until nearly 60 years later. Simple. Or so the Chesapeake, Ohio and Santa Fe thought. But the truth was hidden until now. Also, thankfully I am reading a script, so I know what to say. And so it doesn't become too confusing. The time frame of the story is from 1927 to 1992. So just to make sure everything gets, done and flows easier. In the late 1930s, the New York Central bought 5427 and many other 464s, around 270 more, from both Alco, American Locomotive Company, and Lima Locomotive Works. At first, the 5427 was one of the greatest performing locomotives of the past, but then problems began to arise. In 1940, 5427 had a boiler leak and couldn't hold sufficient boiler pressure. In 1942, the center right driver wheel cracked, and for the next decade, it kept having problems that the railroad couldn't fix. Sorry, bear with me, I'm a little sick here. The truth was, the New York Central had bought one too many 464s, so the New York Central created a blur. I will talk about that more later. But one interesting fact was, the 5427 was removed from almost every roster on the New York Central, except one. A roster that was given to the Chesapeake, Ohio and Santa Fe was not touched. At the time, Chesapeake, Ohio and Santa Fe thought nothing of 5427. They assumed it was just another locomotive on the roster. That was until they noticed it was nowhere to be found. This is the truth of New York Central, later owned by Chesapeake, Ohio and Santa Fe, 5427. The arrival. The New York Central bought a whopping 275 464 steam locomotives. These were built between 1927 and 1938. These were built for different jobs, such as passenger, freight, switching services. Their most famous 464s were the streamlined Dreyfus Hudsons, but some were not streamlined, but still used for passenger and mostly freight trains. New York Central was proud of their 464s, and their arrival was astounding. But our story does not include all 275. Just one. 5427. A non-streamlined, hard-working, and dependable steam locomotive that was the root of one of the largest intentional abandonments in history. For nearly 20 years, the locomotive ran on New York Central, and it did have problems with the so-called cosmetics or build of the locomotive. But that was how it was for a little while, until the wheels broke, loss of boiler pressure, and many other issues that weren't mentioned above. What some didn't know were the problems were completely intentional. They said it cracked over a small pebble. That doesn't sound right. And for some reason, the boiler pressure, the valve was open all the way. But who knows? They mentioned in the synopsis, New York Central was only supposed to get 274, not 275. So they decided to use the blur. This was a major mistake. The blur was a way for the New York Central to get rid of locomotives. And other railroads did this too, but they hid it better. In December 1951, the New York Central took 5427 to its final resting place, or so they thought they did. But they couldn't, for some reason, just move the locomotive by itself, so they made a mock local freight train to suppress suspicion, though there was none. The 5427 was hooked up to 3 boxcars and a Pennsylvania Railroad caboose. I don't know why either. And at 11:39:43 p.m., December 16, 1951, the blur was put into effect. The extra was called 443, going from Cleveland, Ohio to Williamsport, Pennsylvania. But the train derailed for a short time at an unknown location and was then derailed 3 hours later. And everything was going great. There was not a single problem in sight. There was no leak in security, even though there was no need for one anyway. So they expected everything would be fine. And they were very, very wrong. There was a major problem. A security leak. The leak was in fact a person by the name of Alan Barnes. He was hired by the Chesapeake and Ohio as an engineer. Alan was the one who drove 5427 to her final resting place. That was how the COSF found out the truth about Chesapeake, Ohio 5427. Hold on a minute, sorry. I'm sorry if I have to keep cutting out. I have a cold right now and it's really kicking me in the rear. So I'm really sorry about that. Yes. That was how the Chesapeake and Ohio Santa Fe Railroad found out the truth about 5427. He was given his train roster for the day, and he recognized the locomotive number, and he immediately went to his superior and informed him. He informed the president of the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. His nickname was the Pacific Limited. And starting May 1987 through June 1990, the 5427 was searched for, found, and retrieved from the forest near Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And the Chesapeake, Ohio, and Santa Fe made a massive restoration project on 5427. And this locomotive still runs to this day on the Gulf Coast Limited. As it turned out, dozens more locomotives were lost, but were subsequently found and repaired, and they still undergo repairs to this day. The 5427 also runs with and swaps with New York Central 44-3. Ending. Thankfully, the efforts of the New York Central failed, and the 5427 was fixed and put back on the rails as mentioned before. It was one of the largest passenger trains on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. The Chesapeake, Ohio, and Santa Fe has an extensive steam program of locomotives from different routes, and this was the best way for this story to end. As you see, not all stories have the same ending, nor do they have bad ones. Just chapters that feel and look like endings. I hope you have enjoyed this long of an episode. This is probably one of my longer ones. This story took longer to write than the first episode did. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did making it. I honestly cannot wait to make another one. So, yeah. This has been Fear by Rail. I'll see you guys next time. Adios.